Alright, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to another video here on the channel, and today, man, this is a little bit of a, I would say, a weird topic, right? Like, this is kind of something that if I was usually gonna upload a video about it, I was gonna probably make this a Watch Optimus video, you know? Just because, like, I didn't know if this was really, like, a main upload-worthy kind of topic, but the more that I've thought about this situation, and the more that, like, you know, all the chips are kind of falling where they may, and I'm starting to realize, like, hey, why is this happening? Where is it going, right? I think it's definitely worth actually talking about, because I think part of the reason why Activision and Call of Duty are making the decision that they're making is because they don't think that there's going to be like a community backlash in any way. I think they can just kind of come through and do stuff like this and nobody's gonna react, right? So they feel maybe a little bit more comfortable, right, doing something like this, but it's one of those things that I really don't comprehend, okay? It makes no sense on essentially any fronts why Call of Duty would be in this position, right? But obviously I've been quite critical of Activision and Call of Duty for a long time, especially this year, right, with Modern Warfare 3, or as I like to call it, Modern Warfare DLC. So I've kind of fallen out of the Call of Duty community a little bit, right? But when I was still playing the games every year, right, the competitive scene was something that I was pretty interested in. Back in the day, before the CDL even existed, which is like the esports league for Call of Duty, I was a huge E United fan. I went to COD Champs in 2018. And so this is a community that, like, I have a pretty good amount of knowledge about, right? Like, I was actually pretty involved in this shit for a while. So it's kind of just sad to see this going the way that it's going. But Call of Duty has an esports league called the CDL, or the Call of Duty League, right? Now, this is basically just a tournament, like a shows you how well I can talk. But anyway, it's like a league, essentially, like a sports league. You got franchised teams all over the place, right? You've got teams in like New York and LA. I don't even know if London and Paris still have their teams, right? They had teams all over the place, mostly in the US, but all over the place. And they're just trying to make the esport of Call of Duty more like an actual sport. They kind of went in a little bit of a similar direction that they went with like the Overwatch League, right? And if you know, recently the Overwatch League pretty much shuttered and failed, and it's pretty much dead in the dirt. And the sad reality is the Call of Duty League is heading in the exact same direction. And it's not even just because of this video I'm making here why that kind of situation is going on. It's just been honestly circling the drain since it started. Like, first off, teams, if they want to compete in Call of Duty League, have to pay a $25 million entry fee for a league that at most the tournaments were worth like $1 million. You know what I mean? Like, you were never going to make your money back as a team in this fucking league. It was impossible. The whole thing wasn't set up right. I called years ago that this shit was on the way out, and it looks like it is. So today we're gonna be taking a look at their more recent effort to try and, I think, really shutter COD. And they're attacking the pro community, and more particularly, they're attacking a few pros who run like some online shows and streams and whatnot that they call like the flank, the breakdown, things like that, right? And if you're a sports fan, I guess the best way that I can really compare this is these guys who are doing like the flank and whatnot, they're breaking down the plays in Call of Duty that are happening in like pro matches and whatnot. You know, kind of like how, let's say, like Monday Night Football ends, and then the next morning like Sports Center comes on the TV when you're getting ready for school. You notice how, like, they were always doing, like, replays, and they were, like, telling you what was going on, like, oh, and then Gronkowski makes a cut to the right. You know, they're, like, breaking down the footage and whatnot. That's basically what these guys were doing, but with Call of Duty. Like, they're explaining, hey, this is why this flank worked, or why this push on this OBJ worked. You know what I mean? Pretty simple concept, okay? It's a show ran by people who know the game that are explaining the cool parts of the game. But apparently, Call of Duty and Activision have a problem with this. They don't like this for whatever reason. I don't know if they think that somehow shows like this are taking away from viewership of the CDL. I honestly would argue the exact opposite of that statement, but I don't really know what their whole rationale is. But basically, they're going after all of these people in the COD community who are simply trying to just enjoy the product and enjoy it with their fans, and they're trying to literally shut them down so they can't talk about COD anymore with gameplay.
So let me tell you where I'm frustrated. I was received with an email this morning saying that we are no longer allowed to review gameplay. We're not even allowed to pull up CDL gameplay, even when the matches are over. So before the games, after the games, doesn't matter. I can't be live on Twitch and pull up gameplay on YouTube and like watch the gameplay. Like, I can't, I'm not allowed. I'm not allowed to do that. So in terms of reviewing gameplay on the show this year, we can't do that. We are not allowed to talk about COD. We could talk about COD, but we're not allowed to review the gameplay and break down Call of Duty. We can't do that anymore.
Well, the email we got was definitely written by Laura. I'll tell you that.
And people are saying no watch party and stuff. It might be no flank, ladies and gentlemen. That's what it might be. Might be no flank.
Yeah, Chad. There's
There
some,
might be the show might be no more.
There's some information we got that's
like they're trying to shut down the show. That's what they're trying to do.
that
Unless
is going to limit our ability to do certain things. Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna limit our ability to do literally anything.
So that's two separate clips that I just showed you here, okay? And those are two different shows, actually, is what's crazy about that. So it seems like behind the scenes, Activision's lawyers or whoever has just went through the community and started talking to these guys, telling them, oh yeah, like you can't use gameplay even after the matches end. You can't break down gameplay. You can't do that shit anymore, right? I don't really understand why it's such a big deal to them. Like I said, the only thing that really comes to mind for me is that for whatever reason, they think that these guys covering this shit will somehow make it to where like people don't tune into COD League matches. And let me just go ahead and say something here. Once again, as somebody who used to be enthralled with competitive Call of Duty, but once CDL was brought in, I really kind of fell out of it, right? These kinds of shows and these guys, you know, making the cool little like videos and streams and whatnot where they're just breaking down gameplay, that's not what's killing Call of Duty League. That's not what's harming Call of Duty esports. In my opinion, what has harmed Call of Duty's esports scene, and in my opinion, completely destroyed it, I know some people won't agree with that, but that's my take on it. It was when the actual fun and competitive nature of Call of Duty that existed for like over a decade before CDL was completely just bulldozed and erased by Activision Blizzard for a corporatized league that didn't allow people to really have fun or enjoy it. It made the games harder to watch, it made them less fun to watch, it took out a lot of the rivalries, it destroyed a lot of the backstory and whatnot, right? And it made it to where the only teams that people could support that actually existed in the past, like, you know, your 100 Thieves or your Optics and situations like that, the only teams that could exist were the ones that could put up $25 million for a fucking entry spot into the league, which is absurd. And then you also add on the fact that Call of Duty has been on a steady decline in quality for several years now. And it makes a situation where, for me personally, I just don't give a fuck anymore. Like, I don't play COD right now. I don't watch CDL. I haven't really watched CDL in years because I don't want to watch corporatized esports. That's what always, to me, made esports more fun and more different than normal sports. Because, like, I'm a huge sports fan. I mean, I went and watched the MLS Cup yesterday and watched the Crew win that motherfucker. So, I already have sports. I don't need esports to become like sports. I don't need there to be an NFL version for Call of Duty and Overwatch, right? The cool thing about these communities, and it's part of the reason why I think fighting games, even though I don't play them, I think that the competitive community is cool, is because the players have so much more personal freedom in that time, right? Like the teams had so much more freedom. There was legitimate interest in these teams, you know what I mean? They developed over the years with content creators and with awesome players. You don't get that same experience watching the Boston Breach play the Los Angeles Gorillas, okay? And Activision can sit here and cope all they want, and they can pretend that the reason that CDL failed and why, you know, the competitive nature of Call of Duty has been down the drain, they can sit there and blame it on people watching these, you know, people stream and show cool gameplay clips and whatever. But it 1,000,000% has to do with the management at Activision and the way that they've ruined their own product. And this only serves to ruin it more. Like I said, I don't think that these shows were like a market replacement for CDL matches. I think that they were part of the match that helped light the fire for why people wanted to watch CDL. I mean, a lot of these guys who are doing these shows and doing these breakdowns, right, they're actual players themselves or former players, whatever it may be, right? Like they know what they're talking about. You're not just watching some dumbass talk about the game. And that's what's cool about it, right? You're literally watching a lot of the times these like ex-pro COD players talk about the game. Like I said, it's no different than what SportsCenter and ESPN do for, you know, MLB and the NFL and NBA and MLS and NHL and all these other sports leagues. Highlights and cool gaming clips and whatnot, that's what's going to get people intrigued in CDL. People are not going to get intrigued because you managed to have ChatGPT generate like 30 team names and logos and then just put them in different cities around the world and whatnot, right? Like I was an E United fan and now what? Who am I supposed to support? I live in Ohio, right? I guess I gotta become a Miami Heretics fan? Like, no, dude, sorry. This is not the NFL, okay? Like, I'm not supporting this shit. I always thought this was a stupid idea. But yeah, they're so focused on people, like, replaying gameplay clips and rebroadcasting that. And apparently they think that's what's hurting the league. And it really doesn't make sense, right? Because Call of Duty in the last few years has really stagnated, you know what I mean? Like, their sales have disappointed a little bit more than they usually did, and the player counts have been kind of, you know, dropping off pretty quick. You think they would be in the point now where they're like, yeah, we need to do whatever we can to continue. We got to do what we can to get our numbers up, right? You would think that, honestly, they would be welcoming situations like this, where people are basically showing off the gameplay and showing off matches and whatnot from CDL and breaking down what makes them entertaining, right? You would think they would benefit from that. I mean, how many games have we seen actually do worse because it, like, went viral on social media and people could see all the cool elements of the gameplay and whatnot that they wanted to enjoy? Like, in what world has that ever actively harmed a game, you know? Take a game like Fortnite, for example, right? Now, I don't want to say that Fortnite was some no-name game when it came out, because that's not true. Fortnite was something that a lot of people were excited for several years. At least, like, Save the World, not Battle Royale in particular, but when they introduced Battle Royale and then all these people were uploading fucking videos of them playing it to YouTube, and you had people like Ninja and whatnot streaming it on Twitch every day, and clips of it were constantly going viral, that helped boost the game's player base dramatically in the beginning. That helped them get so much more attention than what any other game could have ever imagined to get at that time. And then, like, Fall Guys, that's another perfect example, right? I know a lot of people aren't playing Fall Guys anymore, but, like, that game simply would have never have blown up the way that it did if it wasn't for clips of it being shared on social media and people having fun with the gameplay on, like, YouTube and whatnot. Or a game like Among Us, right? I don't even want to mention that game, unfortunately, because I already know that we're going to be hearing sus for the next 7 years, but once again, that game would have never have gotten as far as it did if people were not sharing viral clips and funny clips and cool clips of it all over social media. Like, we live in a time and a day where the best thing a game developer can do, genuine advice, is get your game out on social media. Because all it takes, man, honestly, like, is a couple of creators who know what they're doing to play your game, to show clips of your game and whatnot. That will help. In the long run, people will pick it up. It will start to catch fire. And I already know what a lot of you are saying. Oh, but Optimus, bro. This is Call of Duty. They don't need the exposure. I would beg to differ, because CDL is clearly on the way out the door. It's clearly going to be shuttered in the next couple of years. It's probably, I don't think, even as successful as Overwatch League was, and Overwatch League wasn't successful enough to stay alive. And I think Activision knows that the writing's on the wall for CDL, and that they wasted all this money, and they just fucking blew their opportunity, and they ruined their competitive scene that was already thriving. And on top of that, just outside of how it would benefit Activision to not do this, let's just talk about the morality of this, okay? Now, technically, Activision is probably in the right, because it is their game. It is their, you know, intellectual property, their copyrights and whatnot. Just like it's not technically legal for you to, like, re-upload NFL game videos and whatnot all over the place, but leagues like that understand that if they enforce those kinds of rules and they shut down people sharing these cool clips and, like, talking about them, that it destroys the enjoyability and the connection of the game and the sport. It's not a good idea. It's not even a fruitful idea at that. Like, not even is it just not a good idea, it won't benefit them in the long run. So, and all it's also done too is now unified and pissed off the pro COD community. I mean, you see the comments on a lot of these videos that are talking about these little clips and whatnot, and people are not happy, you know? They're like, what the fuck is CDL doing? Why would they do this? They're doing this because of money. Let's just call it for what it is. Like, they think that by doing this, they will somehow profit. And I think it's honestly time for the Call of Duty community to show them that no, you're not gonna fuck us over every single time and ruin cool shit for us and then just make money for doing it. Now, I know that that's some pretty well-wishing from me here, because COD fans are not gonna do that, but it's depressing to see a competitive community that I used to enjoy so much just getting basically stepped on by the company because they don't give a fuck about their own product. And it's not even just that it's Call of Duty either. Like, this would be stupid and wrong in virtually any game. I mean, even, like, I remember, I'm old enough to remember back on YouTube, right? in like the mid 2010s when Nintendo did not allow people to upload gameplay of their games. Like you used to use like some fucking Super Mario gameplay or something back in 2013. Nintendo wanted your ad revenue. They wanted to take that shit because no matter what you were doing with that gameplay, no matter how transformative it was, they viewed that shit as theirs. And then of course there was all this backlash and everyone kept telling them it's a stupid idea, and they eventually kind of laxed up on it, you know what I mean? They stopped being as aggressive about it. So hopefully that kind of situation can happen here as well. But anyway, with that being said, man, thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're brand new around here on the channel. Follow me over on Twitter and Twitch at @SubTheOptimus. Make sure to check out Shoptimus down below. Thank you to my Watch Optimus subscribers. Your support helps the channel tremendously. And until my next video, guys, this is Optimus. Well, just saying Activision is a bunch of fucking idiots for this, and signing out.